Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Bootstrapped Solo. I am your host, Pratik Shah, and today we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly about running your own practice. This podcast is for those that want to know what it's really like to start, run, and grow a practice. Today's guest is Rae Rawlins. She runs a 9-person practice in San Diego that focuses on personal injury. She started her practice back in 2017, has been growing strong ever since. Rae, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I know you're busy. Your practice has been growing so fast. I've seen it grow over the last few years, and it's really been amazing to watch from the outside. So I'm excited to hear your story and excited to hear how you grew. But let's kind of start right at the beginning. I mean, you became licensed in 2016. Is that right?
That's right. And I'm originally from Massachusetts. I went to law school there, so moved out here to live the California dream and saw it bigger and better, and worked my tail off while I was working 2 jobs to pass the bar, and eventually I got it. But that grit, the relentless determination is something that I feel that truly sets me apart. Not having a silver spoon in my mouth and really putting in all the work from the beginning. So
yeah, no, there's no argument. I think anybody that knows you knows the kind of work you put in and the kind of grit you have. So I don't think there's any argument there. But so you went to law school in Massachusetts. Are you born and raised there?
I was a small town in Western Mass in Berkshire County. Okay,
so then where did California come from?
I grew up in a town of 6,000 people called the Berkshires. James Taylor sings about it, but it's all good. But I wanted bigger, and I wanted the city life and the beach, and I felt like I was always meant to be a Cali girl, and so I made the decision I was going to pack up everything, ship it in boxes cross country, and set my eyes on it and never look back.
Wow. Just one day, just pick up and go.
Yeah. I mean, I visited a friend out here and I fell in love with San Diego. It's beautiful. And so I said, I don't want to be an attorney where in my hometown, like I know everybody, it's just really small. And, I had done a ton of internships there with the DAs and law firms in Springfield. So, I could have gotten a good job, but it was just, I feel like the sky was the potential and I wanted something more. And so I just committed to do it.
I love that. So you jump out here, you take a leap of faith, you come out here, you pass the California bar in 2016. But you didn't start your practice till 2017. Were you working during that time? What were you doing in that year?
Was. So before I passed the bar, I was working for a local attorney in waitressing. So I was working 2 jobs. So it took me a little bit to pass the bar. I had to pay to live in this beautiful city. Yeah. So complete culture shock from where I'm from. Yeah. But I finally got it. And then I got a job with a firm. It was based out of Orange County, but I was a managing attorney in San Diego. And so, all was great when I first got there. And then a couple months in, I started getting phone calls of people asking me for money. And where's my money? I haven't been paid for X amount of years. And so my feelers started going up. I had those ethical feelers going up like, something's off. But nobody in the firm would answer the questions. Everybody kind of dodged the bullet and nobody really knew. So time went on and more people started calling my cell phone all hours of the night. I was about to get married that year. And I was like, I just cannot, this is not what I stand for, not who I am. I cannot be in this environment. And I remember running outside on my lunch break and calling the ethics hotline of the California State Bar. Obviously, you're thrilled to pass. You get your first job as a licensed attorney. It should be all gravy, learning everything. Yeah. And I will say the attorney I worked for was brilliant. I did learn a lot in that short period of time, but just got ahead of himself for whatever reason it was and didn't pay a lot of people. And so I was the only person I was told that would answer my phone. And so it has since completely unraveled. But, I, again, had to take a leap of faith. It was 8 months. I was a licensed attorney, had student loan debt, no money saved up, was about to get married. That July after I got married, it was August. And I had said to my husband, Trent, I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm losing sleep at night. This is against everything that I stand for and how I was raised. Yeah. And he was like, let's get on our hands and knees and pray. And we prayed. And I left like 2 weeks after that. And the rest is history. I slowly started getting cases and never looked back. But nobody tells you about these crazy stories that you have when you first.
Well, I mean, what a punch in the gut. You move all the way across the country you're working 2 jobs, you finally, conquer the bar, you pass the bar, you're licensed, you're ready to go. You're like, okay, I'm ready to start my career. And you run into this buzzsaw of this unethical attorney right out of the gate.
It was crazy. It was, he was definitely brilliant. I learned a lot. He called me the rainmaker. I settled cases. But, when the calls started coming in about the money thing, that's like one of the things, that's like the number one bar thing,
That's like the number one thing that people got to get paid. And when you say people were calling for money, are you talking about clients? Are you talking about vendors?
It was everybody. It was vendors from years ago. It was doctors. It was clients. And I had to finally got the courage to say to a few people, like, how do you get my phone number? And they said, Ashley, you're the only person at the firm that will answer your phone. But I had no knowledge of anything. So I was trying to figure out like what's going on. And it was, oh, we'll handle it. Don't worry. But once the calls, were inundated and I was just losing sleep over it, I was like, I can't handle this anymore. I've got to.
Yeah. Once you saw the pattern, like every once in a while it happens, something, falls through a crack, a vendor doesn't get paid. You're like, oh no, let's go fix it. Let's take care of it.
Or gets lost in the mail, but you paid it. But like when there was like silence and like dodging the bullet and no answers, then I was like, okay, I have to make a decision here. And, after that, I just couldn't work for anybody else. It was such a horrible experience that, I was like, okay, if all these other people can do it, I have what it takes. I can do it. And guess what? Yeah. I'm going to take the chance. And if I fail, I'm still a licensed attorney and I can get another job.
Right.
So that was the worst thing that would happen.
I think that's a great point. And I want to emphasize that because that's the thing that a lot of people are afraid of is like, okay, well, what if it doesn't work out? What if I start my firm, it doesn't work out? If it doesn't work out, like you're still a licensed attorney. Mm-hmm. It's not like you're taking on, $1 million line of credit. No one's going to give you $1 million loan when you start your business. Like, despite what you hear sometimes on Instagram, that's not how it works, right? You don't start a business and get $1 million loan. So you're not going to be in all this debt. Like you're going to sign on cases. You're going to work on cases. As long as you don't do anything unethical, lose your license, blow a statute, things like that. As long as you do your job. The worst case scenario is one day you say, you know what, this didn't work out and I got to go get a job. Right. And you know what? If you're going to get a job anyways, you might as well take a shot because the worst case scenario is you end up where you would have ended up.
True.
And it doesn't make that much of a difference.
And that's the thing is for me, if I'm going to bet on somebody, I'm going to bet on myself because at the end of the day, it comes down to my hard work, my ethics, my grit, my passion. So I tried. And if it didn't work out, I'm still an attorney. I still pass the bar in the hardest state in the country. I'm hireable, but I think that people are just scared to take that leap. And I've talked to so many people who have started their practice and they're like, I wish I did it earlier. That's pretty much the consensus is I wish I did it sooner. And but
that is pretty much the consensus. If you talk to people who have started their firm, the number one thing they say is, I wish I had I'm like, what do you regret? They're like, oh, I just wish I had started earlier. Mm-hmm. That's all.
It's a completely different beast. You have to learn everything from start to finish. Like you do everything from the beginning to marketing, to posting on social media, to writing the checks, to opening the mail. But the thing is the beauty of that is I know everything that goes into it from start to finish, from A to Z. And so when you do that, you also have a better gauge when you hire. You know what people should be able to do, should not be able to do. And at the end of the day, I loved the early days of being able to do everything because at the end of the day, I didn't have anybody else to blame if it didn't work out besides me. And those days were long. They were a grind. I was working all day and all night, but it was worth it because it was for myself and for my family and for, my legacy and my future. And so then you have a different kind of like passion and edge when it's for you.
It's totally different. And maybe an old misconception. I don't think people have this misconception anymore, but an old misconception was that, if you start your firm and you run the show, you really don't have to do much. And, not in the early years, you're doing everything. Yeah. You're literally working as much as you could possibly work until you're not productive anymore in that day. You just keep working.
Yeah.
But what you said is I agree with, which is it doesn't even feel like work because it just feels like I just have to do it. And the person I'm doing it for is for me and for my family and for my clients who trusted me. That's a big trust that the clients take, right? If they know that you're a relatively newer attorney, a relatively newer firm, they can compare you and your website and your office and all this stuff to everybody else. So they know it and they take a chance on you and you don't want to let those clients down either. And so you just stay on top of everything because what else you going to do? You're taking a chance on starting this thing and you got to go all in.
Yeah. And you emphasize on the reason why I became a lawyer is because I truly believe it was my God-given passion, but I also I believe I'm created to help people and to give back. And so, that ties into why I have the Bible verse on my logo. That ties into a lot of things of what I stand for and who I am. And so when you have that, personal injury is crazy. Everybody hears the stories, there's crazy stories. It's a hard industry, but at the end of the day, if you have something that you believe in, like I have my faith and I have that Bible verse, Micah 6:8, and I keep myself grounded and I just give good service and I do what I think that I should do and just, treat the client how I would want to be treated. And, everything else falls into place,
Yeah. And another thing is when you have something like that, for you, it's your faith that's super important to you. And it's important to you that that's part of your branding and part of who you are as a firm, because you want clients to know who you are. And as long as you're not running afoul of any kind of, bar rules, you can decide what you as a firm owner want to put out into the world, what message you want to put out into the world. And you don't have to worry, because if a potential client or somebody is going to say, oh, well, I'm not into that, well, then that's fine. I don't need them as a client. I want clients that believe in what I believe in and want to work with me and understand what I'm about. And I think that's another big benefit that people don't realize about running your own show is when you work somewhere, the downside is you're beholden to whatever that principal does. If that principal of that firm has a bad reputation or is into, different things, you're part of that. It's kind of like when you were at that firm.
Yeah, you're guilty by association, and I learned that with that firm when I would go to networking events, and that's how it started too. And I was always out there at events, and people were like, "Oh, where do you work?" And then I saw the faces that would come out, and I'm like, "Okay, something." But that is the beauty of running your own firm is, I've helped people from all walks of life, but at the end of the day, and they know that it's not necessarily I'm religious, but they know that my faith is I have a relationship with Christ, and my faith, Micah 6:8, do justly, love mercy, walk humbly. That translates over to the practice of law. Like we took an oath to uphold our duty of the Constitution, and we're supposed to do what's right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, there's hard days for everybody where you're like, oh, there's those moments that we all have, like, you're slamming your head off the desk, and there's people that are, there's all sorts of clients that we deal with the general public. But, that's why I always look back. Why did you start your practice? Like, why are you in this? And take the good with the bad. I've done plenty of cases for free or reduced fees. A lot of other attorneys think I'm crazy, but at the end of the day, it's all part of it.
Yeah, it's all part of it. And it's just about, one of the kind of core values that we had at my firm and we have in our house. And I talk about those kids is like the number one thing is always do the right thing. Mm-hmm. Right. And whether that means, you have to end up taking a cut on a fee or you have to let a client go and not put a lien on the case because it's not right. Just do the right thing. And the rest will all work out. If you're trying to maximize every client or every case and every situation, it just ends up hurting you in the long run. And I think there's too many people that
that's just a long game to play. Like that's a long, tiring game to play.
Yeah, and you just have to trust the process, though. You have to trust the process that it is all going to work out, and your reputation in the community, your reputation amongst clients and former clients, and your reputation amongst their friends and family is going to pay off in the long run. You've been running your practice 6 years, and obviously, I know your marketing, and I want to get into that in a little bit, but I am sure you get a lot of your clients from former clients.
Mm-hmm. Former clients, repeat offenders, friends, family.
But that's because the only reason they call you is because you did right by them, you took care of them, and it's important for these younger lawyers or people that are just starting their practice to understand that. Yeah, you're going to run into people that do shady stuff all the time. We run into it in personal injury, like you said, all the time. Right. We see it all the time. And it does make you question yourself. Why is everybody else getting away with it? Mm-hmm. And you just have to trust in who you are and in what you believe in and just stick to what's important to you, right? What do you say to that?
100%.
And don't worry about that because you worry too much about what everybody else is doing and it just becomes a distraction.
Yeah, you just have to focus on yourself. Personal injury attorneys are a dime a dozen. There's a million people. You can't worry about what everybody's doing. You can't try to keep up with the Joneses. You can't compare things about how come this person is here when I'm not. You don't know everybody's situations. So, I tune all of that stuff out. Honestly, I just put my head down and I just keep grinding and keep doing what I need to do and keep doing what's right. And, that's it. Keep showing up.
That's it. Yeah. So let's talk about 2017. You start your practice with your husband, Trent. Now he's not a lawyer, right?
Right. He's not a lawyer. He's a professional
Right.
boxer by trade.
Right. Yeah, no, Trent's one of my favorite people. You know that. And so, but I just want to say that, and I bring that up because I just want the audience to know it wasn't like two lawyers starting
Right.
practice. You're the lawyer. Trent would help you out when he could, when his professional boxing career wasn't, when he wasn't in training or at a fight. But mainly it was just you.
Yeah, and he would help with a lot of, we would go visit doctors, providers, get our name out there, go to events, but it was just me in the home office grinding it out. And, I have an office in Mission Valley too, but the beauty about post COVID is it's become acceptable to work from anywhere. And so my whole business model, like from the very beginning, was kind of built on the virtual thing. And a lot of the old school attorneys, had given me their thoughts on, oh, you need an office. I'm like, I know, and I have one, but at the end of the day, like, I really truly believe that the wave of the future is going to be virtual. And you and I have talked about that before. And now it's funny because we see it full circle where huge corporations are going virtual. And it's great because it allows you to expand your talent pool. It allows you to be able to work from anywhere. You have a great home life balance. I mean, at the end of the day, being an attorney is a stressful profession, and the stress is going to be something that's always going to be there. But if you can offset it to be able to balance it and, have that time that you can spend with your family and loved ones, or do things that you love. Like for me, being on the golf course, it's nice because then, you get to actually take that moment for yourself. And I think it makes you become a better attorney and a better business owner.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it gives you the opportunity to, you mentioned a couple things. Expand your talent pool. You can hire from anywhere. You don't have to worry so much that they have to be local. Because before you used to only be able to hire basically within a 30-mile radius of your office, because people have to drive to your office every day to be there. Now you don't worry about that so much.
Right.
And it allows your employees to be able to do things too. Like, we run fully remote at Esquire Tech, and I tell myself, look, if you got to go pick up dry cleaning during the day, or you got to go get your car done, just go get it done. Just make sure you get your work done. It's okay.
Right.
The life gets in the way sometimes, and that's okay, as long as we're all committed to still doing our job and taking care of our clients. Now, So 2017, you start your firm, you're working remotely. How did you get your first client?
So when I left, 5 people came with me. And I didn't
wow.
know I didn't know they were gonna come with me. So I only had a small
5 clients or 5 employees?
Yeah, 5 clients. And I only had a handful. His whole business model was a smaller amount of cases and to just maximize settlement. But for me, I can just handle a lot more. And so I would always ask for more cases, but it was always, we had like 15 cases. And so I had let the clients know that I was leaving. And then 5 people ended up contacting me within the next like week and a half, 2 weeks after I left, and was like, I want to stay with you. Like wherever you're going, I want to be with you. Obviously because I was the attorney, the main, communication throughout the whole process. And so that was another whole battle dealing with that. But 5 people came with me, which I didn't expect. And so I had that to start, which was nice. And then I just networked. I went and met with, doctors. I went and met boots on the ground, door to door. I met with everybody. And, I met with attorneys who might turn down cases. I've taken so many cases that attorneys have turned down that they thought I was crazy for taking, but I've gotten a settlement. And, I've taken hard cases where LA firms have dropped people because they were at fault, but I was able to be successful for the client. And then those clients have in turn ended up becoming some of my best referral sources.
Yeah. And, so I want to keep going on this. So you're out there, you're hustling. So when you say you're out there meeting doctors and meeting, other attorneys, talk to me in detail. Like, what does that actually mean? Like, okay, you just show up at a doctor's office?
Yeah. You know me, I'm not shy. So, I'll go up to anybody. Like I will walk up to anybody and talk to anybody about anything. So, I think that's, one of my strengths, and it comes from waitressing. I waitressed my whole life. So you have to be on your feet and think. So I would meet anybody, whether it was chiropractors, physical therapy offices, like doctors, I would walk in, I would introduce myself. I start my own firm. This is how I operate. I'm ethical. I'm honest. Please give me a try, and I'll make sure that, I take good care of your clients. And that's what I did. I went to every single event probably for the first Jeeps, 3-4 years, like every event I could go to. And it's exhausting. I mean, you're running your practice during the day, and then you have to be, on and smiling and happy at every event, even though you're exhausted and you don't know where your next case is going to come from. But it's all part of the grind. And I think that I enjoy the hard work, and I like the challenge. So for me,
and you have to embrace that. You have to embrace that and just know that this is part of the process. Like, part of the process is everybody we talk to about starting their own firm has a similar type of story of the first at least couple of years. For me, when I started my practice, it probably took me about 4 years, I feel like, before I really felt like, okay, I had a steady flow. I felt comfortable not having to go to every event. And I felt, I still went to a lot, and I still did what I'm supposed to do. We met at an event, right? And, but I felt like, okay, I'm turning a corner here. And, but everybody has to understand that you need to just put your head down and you need to do everything possible for a while. And it may take 2 years for you. It may take 10 years for you. But you just got to keep going and not worry about it. I mean, what was that time frame for you where you felt like, okay, I don't have to go to every event anymore. I feel comfortable. We're growing. Of course, you still have to market and you still have to get your clients, but not as much pressure as you did in the beginning.
I mean, I did it for a solid, up until COVID, I went to everything.
Well, yeah. I mean, that stopped by itself.
COVID kind of hit, and, when we actually like doubled during COVID. And so then I think that was my point where it was like, oh, okay, I'm still getting all these cases without the events, but we didn't have a choice to go to events. But I mean, I'm a social person. I like to go to events. And so that's just a part of who I am. It's fun for me. Some people are, introverts don't like it, but for me, I enjoy it. So I still try to go to a lot of things. I do a lot of social media. I'm on TV. So, once I started advertising it on TV and other things, you don't have to necessarily go to many events, but I still thoroughly enjoy going to events. You can still get cases from other attorneys.
Yeah.
You can still meet. You never know who you're going to meet. So for me, I think that just how I am as a person, I will always be like that grinding kind of person, just because I think no matter what, I'm not going to be satisfied at the point of like, oh, I made it. Right. It's just because like it's an internal, like I just have that internal like grittiness and hunger. I'm just competitive, and I don't know. That's just me.
Well, you can't. I mean, look, you can't, right? If you're running a business, if your business isn't growing, it's dying.
Right.
It's an organic being. Your business is an organic being. And if it's not growing, it's dying. Mm-hmm. And so you have to keep your foot on the gas. But like you talked about, is you can switch gears and you can leverage money instead of leveraging time, right? When you're doing the events, you're spending a lot of your own time, and it's giving you a one-on-one time, and you're building relationships. That's great. But as you start building the practice and your funds grow, you can start leveraging money, which is what you're talking about now. With advertising on TV, you're able to get your name out there by leveraging money without you having to physically be in people's homes or at these events to meet people, right? So I want to talk about that transition. I mean, obviously, I've seen a lot of your social media. And for those that don't know, you go by the moniker Car Crash Ash in San Diego. And it's very famous. People know it. It's everywhere. Now there's TV ads. But, I remember when you started that out in, I think it was like probably late 18, something like that. Probably you started really going heavy on that. Mm-hmm. How'd you come up with that? And what made you want to go all in on that?
It's funny because I don't remember. It was always Rawlins Law was the brand when I started, and my logo and my logo has a symbol and a whole deeper meaning besides the tiger. But I don't really remember the point I actually was like, oh, Car Crash Ash. I really don't remember where it came from or where it happened, but it was catchy. And I feel like, there's so many attorneys who are just always say the same thing, and so for me, I wanted to target a younger demographic in a certain way. So it's kind of like an offset. Like I have Rawlins Law, and that's the professional law firm brand, but Car Crash Ash is kind of like my avatar, my personality behind the brand. So it kind of unfolds and shows who I am as a person, because I think we're all people more than just attorneys, and everybody stands up there with their arms crossed and their serious photos. And it's just, I feel like that's why the public has such a negative connotation of us. And I feel like, so I just wanted to make something that was more approachable, more of showcasing me as an individual, as Car Crash Ash, not just an attorney. And so that's where the avatar and the car crash ash came from. And just to try to make it more relatable and fun, and that, you can come up to me and talk to me. I'm not a stiff attorney. And so that's where that whole idea kind of came from. And then obviously car crashes are 80+% of PI, and that's really what I do. And so, it's kind of coming and finding that interplay of how to market Rawlins Law with car crash ash was the challenge. But I think I've done it to a decent degree, and always trying to improve. But
yeah, we're always trying to improve. But it's good. I thought it was great to commit to one type of like moniker and one type of angle and just stick with it, right? Like I see a lot of people, they pick a moniker, they pick an angle, they do it for 6 months, it doesn't work, and they stop. Or it only works a little bit and they go, oh, I'm going to try something new. And there's a little bit of kind of, they want that fresh and new thing versus saying, hey, I'm picking this thing, I'm sticking with it, and I'm just going to ride this all the way, and it's going to work for me, and it'll work over time. That's really hard to do. People are always starting new marketing campaigns. We see it all the time. We see firms change their marketing campaigns all the time. So, not being a huge firm, not coming from a big business background, was that just something where you're like, hey, this is just who I am. I like the brand and I'm just going to stick with it? Or was that a purposeful decision where you're like, I know I can't be changing the moniker?
Kind of both. I think I have good intuition. I think I have like a natural business kind of instinct. And so, and I'm the kind of person when I do something, no matter what it is in life, I'm all in. And so, Rawlins Law was like the logo and the firm, but then Car Crash Ash is like the brand and the avatar. And it's unique. It's catchy. Every time somebody says something to me, they're like, that's catchy. Like nobody else has. It's always law offices of, or something law, or
right.
5 named partner. And so that's the thing, is people want something that they can remember. And so, some people are into the vanity phone numbers. Some people are into, their slogan, but Car Crash Ash is catchy. It's short, it's memorable. And so I went with it to showcase my personality as more than an attorney. And then it just stuck and still going.
Yeah. Did you, how was it when you launched it? Did you have any positive comments, negative comments? What was around you that you felt like this motivated me to keep going, or this made me second guess, but I just powered through? Was there anything like that?
You know how it is in this industry. So everybody's always going to have something to say no matter what you do. So For me, I am very strong-headed. I am very I'm just the kind of person that I find my identity in Christ, and I really don't care what anybody else thinks. Not to be mean, but it's just one of those things that if you're going to showcase your brand, you can't care what anybody thinks, because you're always going to have people say something negative. It's just part of it. It's like posting on social media and think everybody's going to agree with you. It's not going to happen. And so I've had the negative, comments, but I truly I don't care. And because I know where it's coming from. It's coming from other people in the industry. It's not coming from the public. And so my clients are the public, and, they know that I care and will go above and beyond. And it's not like Car Crash Ash, I'm trying to perceive myself as a superhero. I want my marketing and advertising to be different, to stand out, and so I want it to reflect who I am. And I am anything but boring. And so that's why my advertising is, cutting edge, sometimes in your face. It's bright, it's colorful, it's truthful, it's to the point. And I think that that's what more lawyers need to do. A lot of the reason why the general public doesn't like us is because everything is skewed behind numbers, results, and so I think for me is I just really want to try to have a complete, honest, and transparency with the general public and how this profession is. And, people think we're ambulance chasers, but it's because they see a certain type of attorney doing that. And so I think that if you have people that are ethical and stand up and showcase the truth, and, the average settlement is this amount, or you're hurting your case by doing A, B, C, and D, if you are honest and set the public up for their expectations, how they should be, I think that as the industry and the profession as a whole, it's all going to be better. I can't tell you how many times clients are like, I want $1 million. And I'm like, I wish I could get everybody $1 million, but First of all, it depends on your policy. Second of all, truthfully, you don't want your case to be $1 million case. And they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, I would never wish that upon anybody. Like, you don't want $1 million case. And so just
every single, I used to tell clients, every single one of my clients that I've ever gotten $1 million for would give the money back in an instant if they just didn't have to be hurt.
Right.
Every single one. Because it's life-changing, life-altering injuries that result in life-altering compensation. Right. So, if I gave you $10 million today, but told you wouldn't wake up tomorrow, nobody would take that deal. No. And it's kind of the same thing,
And I get it. I understand it's good to show results. I understand like people are proud of their verdicts, but I think in the industry, we know, these verdicts are because the person was an amputee. This was because it was a horrible case. This was because this was not collectible, but the general public doesn't know that. And so they just see these numbers, and then it's frustrating because it skews their expectations. So then they have like a rear end car accident and they're like, actually, I want $1 million. And I'm like, you went to the chiropractor. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like
you just, I used to always tell clients, I'd say there's a scale. There's a scale of how injured you are. And that correlates directly to the compensation. So if you went to one doctor appointment, you weren't that injured. And that's fine. That's a good thing that you're not injured. Right. On the other hand, if you lost a leg or you died, I could get you a lot of money. I'd get your family a lot of money, but you'd be gone. Right. So, it's a scale, and which side of the scale you want to be on. There's no situation in which, hey, if you're not really injured, you're going to go get a lot. That just doesn't really exist. And to your point, I think it skews not only the perception of potential clients, but the perception of attorneys generally in the public, because they go, they see everybody posting, everybody's getting $1 million, everybody's getting $10 million. And it makes the general public think, man, there's something scammy going on here. There's some kind of scam that people are running, and they don't realize, like you said, no, these people were catastrophically injured and they need medical care for the rest of their life. And that's where a lot of these large numbers are coming from, is legitimate injuries in legitimate cases. And a lot of those, the side benefit of a lot of those large numbers is that it ends up making a lot of industries safer. Right. So it's not just about the money, but it does totally skew people's expectations and the perception of attorneys in the public. So I think that's a fair point. I've seen a lot of your social media stuff too. And you talk about, hey, you're just telling people, hey, the average settlement is really this on cases. Hey, not every case is a big case. Here are some of the smaller cases I've handled, and I'm willing to take your case even if it's a small case. And I think that's an important message to put out there. Has that been effective for you? Is that something that clients have given you positive feedback on?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody wants the big cases, right? Like every attorney, like no one's going to come on and say, I don't want an 8-figure case. Like, I'm sorry, I'm going to turn down the 9-figure case and I'll give it to you. Right. Like nobody's going to say that, but the reality is the pool of those cases are small. And then you also have to know like what you're asking for. Like your firm, they take the bigger cases. That's what they're known for. They have a reputation for that. Like that's their niche. That's their reputation for going to trial, and that's what it is. But like every firm is not the same. And a lot of times I think that's the problem with younger attorneys. They're like, I want the 7-figure case, and yes, you can be diligent about case selection, but for me, I've just never had a threshold monetary value of what I would take for a case. I evaluate everything on, a lot of it depends on the client's expectation, how the client's going to be, if somebody works in the service industry, I used to be a server. So, that's something that's, near and dear to me. If I have a heart for that person to want to truly help, I'll take it. I'll take on cases that people have turned down. I take on the hard slip and falls and have been successful. But, those are some of the people that have been my happiest clients. So I just try not to set like a monetary threshold on a case.
No, I love that point. And it's not, but I love that point because it's not just about the monetary threshold, right? It's about, is this a person I want to fight for? Is this a person I believe in? I believe they were wronged and I want to deliver justice for them, whether it's a small case or a medium case or a big case. Is this a client that I sit down with? They have the right expectations. They're going to be easy to work with. I care about them as a human. I think they were totally wrong. They need help. That makes life so much easier. When you're picking those kinds of clients, forgetting value, even if it's a $10,000 case, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you're picking the clients that are going to make your life easier and you get the benefit of doing that when you run your own firm, it is a game changer. I mean, 80% of my headaches came from 20% of my clients at my old firm, right? When we were a small, medium firm. And, obviously, like you said, at Panish now, they're handling larger cases. It's different. But on my old firm where we handled a lot of small, medium cases, it was always the cases I regretted taking were not because of monetary value.
Nope.
I regretted taking them because of the clients.
Right. And I think that's an art, and that's like, like having those feelers up from intake. And it's not just somebody that is needy and calls a lot, right? I always tell my team, like,
Right.
they're going through a catastrophic situation, or even if it's not catastrophic, they're going through their first car accident. Like, I've been there. Like, you have so many questions that are going through your head. So I have no problem if somebody wants to call me every day because they genuinely have questions. But if you have unrealistic expectations, or, you sign up and then 2 days later you ask for a status, it's like, there's certain things where it's, and I think that's the thing, is there's some unrealistic expectations, which I think was created by our generation of expecting everything instantaneously, like Amazon. And I have an ad, I say, law firms are not like Amazon. There's no next day delivery, because there's not. Like, I pride myself on being very efficient and very responsive, almost too responsive to a fault. It's just one of my qualities I can't help. But in the area of law, we depend on so many other people that we're waiting on. It's a process. And so I think that that's something too that's hard to get across to the clients. Like, it's not that I didn't call the adjuster 10 times, like they haven't called me back. You know what I mean? And so I'm not just like, I don't want to drag your case on. Like, I really would like to get your case settled as quick as possible too. But, there's other factors, in health insurance, Medicare, Medi-Cal, like, I can't speed up the government. And so some of these things are just, those are things I think that personal injury we run into. But, I'm just completely transparent as much as I can with people. And, I think that goes a long way. Even if you don't have an update, I don't have an update, and they like to hear from you. I don't have anything new. If I do, I will let you know.
And I think sometimes they just want to know that they haven't been forgotten. Right. Like, I think sometimes it's like, hey, if it's been a while, I haven't heard, is my case even ongoing? I remember one time I saw that one of my clients hadn't been called in a while. So I called them. I said, hey, I just want to tell you, here's what's going on. They're like, oh, I hadn't heard from you. So I thought my case was like over. And I was like, no. I'm like, that is my fault. I'm so sorry. I will update you at least every 30 days. I felt horrible that they felt that way. You don't want your clients to feel that way.
No. And I think we all have different expectations and standards because, for me, I think one of my weaknesses is I'm almost too responsive. And so clients expect it. So then when I don't answer within that hour, within that minute, it's like a fiasco. And so I think it's a fine line of, that's just my personality thing that I can't help. But I mean, I hear about firms that don't contact their clients for months. And here we contact our clients like every week and a half, 2 weeks for an update. And I mean, I give my personal cell phone number to everybody. So I always tell people the attorney-client relationship is a two-way street. So, I'm here for you, but if you have a question, I don't know if you have a question unless you're going to reach out to me. So.
So no, I agree with that. I want to go back a little bit to when we were talking about building and your marketing campaign. So you started in 2017. A lot of it is networking, former clients, that kind of stuff. And then you're doing events and, networking with doctors and lawyers. 2020 hits. Obviously the events go away. You doubled in business, you said, during COVID. So you're growing despite that. And then when did you decide to really start pushing social media?
I kind of started social media from the beginning because the reality is I didn't have the financial means to advertise. And so I feel like everybody's on social media. And so I was like, I'm just going to post. I don't really care if I ever get a case. I'm just going to post, and I'm just going to keep posting, and I'm going to just be diligent about it. And I don't care if it's 3 or 4 times a day. I don't care if people hate seeing my stuff. I'm just going to keep posting because, eventually it's going to work. And it's one of those things. I don't necessarily do it just to get cases. I do it to educate the public. And I think that that's a huge thing, is a lot of people are misconstrued about this business. And so I think that the more educational tools that we can share on social media, I think it's important. I mean, I can't tell you how many people have called and they're like, I have no idea what to do after a crash. I have no idea about insurance coverages. And so, if we weren't in this industry, we wouldn't know about a lot of this stuff. Right. And so I think it's just good to, and I have a real passion to fight against these insurance companies because I just can't stand what they do. And, so I think that that's another thing, is the more we as plaintiff attorneys can educate the public, don't speak to the insurance companies, don't fall into the traps of accepting the fast cash. Don't do a recorded statement. Like, you don't have to do these things. I think the more that we can do that, the more that we can hold insurance companies accountable, for all of their advertising and what they're portraying to the public. That's completely false.
Right. No, exactly right. So how long did it actually take? So obviously, like you said, you're doing it to educate the public, but hopefully maybe you're doing it for marketing. You're trying to get some business out of it, of course. Right. And so how long did it take of you posting a lot, like you said, 3-4 times a day, till you felt like you were finally getting some traction on social media?
I mean, I still would like, more traction.
Of course.
That's just me. But I think it's just one of those things. I feel like you can't quit. You have to be diligent about it.
Yeah.
And so I will just keep posting. And if you never know, you might get that one big case from it. And so
that's all you need. That's all you need. It would be worth it. If you did it for 10 years and you got 2 big cases, you'd be like, that was totally worth it.
Right. And it's because it's no cost. Right. And so that's the thing is like, you can literally, that's the beauty of law, is you can start your firm with a laptop and your phone and social media. And so it's like, you don't have to be on TV. You don't have to be on the radio. You don't have to be on the billboard. Like you can literally start your law firm with minimal.
Right. No, it's true. It's absolutely true. So you're pushing social media, you're doing some networking as what you can for whatever you can until COVID hits. And then at some point you decided to start running TV ads. I mean, everybody knows that's a big cost. That's not cheap. So at obviously everything else you were doing was working, and you decided to take that leap and say, I'm going to make an investment into TV marketing. What made you want to take that leap, and how did that process work?
I just wanted to get to the next level. I want to keep growing. And so, if you want to keep, I always say insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And yeah, it works, but you have to try different marketing avenues and see what works and see what doesn't. And so some people want the billboard first, some people want TV, some people want radio. And so I just decided TV was going to be my medium that I was going to do, and went in and went, smaller the first year, and just actually bought spots like on my own through a local network. Which was definitely an interesting learning curve, and don't recommend it, but then got some marketing people behind me and people that really know the game in the industry and media companies to actually like help. And so the difference between my first campaign of, doing it myself with people on my side who have experience and knowledge has been tenfold, but now just decided, to go all in and see if it works. And I think TV is one of those things. It's a long-term play. And I think you can't just do it for a couple months and get off of it and expect, well, it didn't work. It's a long-term game. A lot of people say you have to do it for a year, and it's not just about getting cases. It's about branding. It's about having the general public know who you are. That's the thing is, it's like everything cannot be a transactional thing in personal injury. Like you can't be like, oh, I'm going to post on social media once and I'm going to quit because I didn't get a case. I'm going to be on TV for 2 months, but I'm going to quit because, I spent X amount of thousands and I didn't get anything. So if you're going to commit, you have to do it long-term to see if it really works out. And it's not just necessarily a monetary return on your investment. It's a branding thing. It's a credibility thing. It's, having people know you, and they might not need you now, but they might remember your commercial and need you in the future. Yeah.
No, a lot of people make that mistake, especially a lot of lawyers. And I think they lack a business experience. They lack business knowledge. And the big mistake they make is they look at a marketing campaign and they look at it in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. And they say, if I invest $10, I need to get $25 back on this marketing campaign, versus looking at it as a whole law firm investment. Right. Is I'm going to make these investments. I'm going to invest 10% of my revenue, 20% of my revenue, whatever number you are comfortable with, into these avenues of marketing. And then over the next 2 to 3 years, let's see how the business does. Mm-hmm. And because you're not always going to attribute, you're not going to always be able to attribute one new lead to one particular marketing campaign, right? And somebody might see your ad on TV, then see your social media post, then see a billboard, and then decide, and then get in a car accident, and then they call you and they say, how'd you hear about us? Oh, my friend told me about it. Right. And you're like, that's not true, because they don't remember how they were influenced by all those other things, right? So I think that's an important point, is that a lot of law firm owners make that mistake in saying, oh, I did this for 6 months. It didn't work. I'm doing something else. You don't know if it's going to work. And you don't even know how it's working sometimes, because a lot of times it's just an overall experience that people are feeling about your business when they decide to call you.
Right.
And it's a combination of things.
And I think you're actually losing more money if you keep trying different things and quit than if you just stuck to it. And I think they say like the average person like needs like 5 touches in order to get your brand in your head or something.
Yeah, even and I think it's even more now with social media and seeing all kinds of branding everywhere, you know.
And
people, I feel like we're constantly bombarded with ads these days.
It's true. And that's the thing is people might remember you, but they might not need you right away, right? And so that's the thing is like you can see a personal injury attorney's commercial every single day for 4 months and you're like, oh, great commercial, but like I don't need them. And like, you know, and so it's like, great, they don't need me, but like they're gonna, if it's memorable and you have something that sticks, they're gonna remember it when they do need you. And so I think
and there's also something to be said about getting a little lucky with timing, right? Because like you said, they might see your ad for 6 months and then, you know, in month 8 they get in a car accident, but you pulled your ad off TV and they see someone else's ad and they decide to call that person because that's just top of mind. They were so, you know, there's a whole nother thing about always needing to be top of mind at the right moment at the right time. And so this combination of marketing helps do that. And unless you have a really serious brand, like, you know, look, people remember Larry H. Parker. I remember those ads as a kid because they were constantly on TV. They were everywhere and you couldn't avoid them. But that's how they got to a point where when I say Larry H. Parker to non-lawyers, they know. Non-lawyers don't know any personal injury lawyer.
Right.
They just don't.
That's
Unless somebody has been out there advertising for a while, committed to that brand, and so people can actually name, oh yeah, you know, like you said, you have a moniker, car crash ads. Oh yeah, I've heard that before. I remember seeing those ads somewhere. That actually, you know, thinking in those terms of why would a non-lawyer care to remember me? Right? And you've made a couple of good points here on why a non-lawyer would care to remember you. You've got a nice moniker that people are going to remember and it's relatable. You're educating them on, you know, inside information on the industry that they wouldn't know about. And then you're being available to them on branding and commercials and social media so that they kind of see your branding over and over. And people need to make a commitment to that as how am I going to get these non-lawyers to remember who I am?
Right. And that's doing everything that is a traditional lawyer doesn't do, you know, the boring, the arms crossed and looking super serious.
Wait, are you saying my bookcase behind me like this is not okay?
Like we all look so angry on the websites. Like that was another thing is like every lawyer looks really angry on their website. Like why would somebody want to hire someone that looks angry and unapproachable after they've been in a catastrophic event? I mean, especially like the younger generation. Like I think that the younger generation wants somebody that's real, you know, that's tech savvy, that's relatable, that will respond to them, that fits in their mold, you know, like people don't want their attorney to even call them half the time anymore. Like most clients that are like, shoot me a text, it's cool. So I think
and that's the thing is, you know, we talk about that a lot through, you know, our software program and stuff is like we text, right? We have an ability to text clients and lawyers forget that they're human beings and these clients are human beings. And when they go home at night and they communicate with their friends, they communicate by texting, right? Or they communicate by Instagram DMs or things like that. And then they walk through the doors of their office and they say, oh, no, we're not allowed to text. We got to call or email. Yeah. It's like that. These people are human beings. Your clients are human beings that act just like you act when you don't put the suit on and you're just with your friends. And you have to kind of think in that sense. You have to meet the clients where they are and what's comfortable for them. And then they'll feel an affinity towards you because they text their friends. And now if they're texting their lawyer, they're building a relationship with you that, oh, I can just text this person and I'm going to get an update, et cetera, et cetera. And they're going to be able to tell their friends, hey, my lawyer was cool. It was easy to work with them. They would text me. They'd let me know what was going on. And I was involved in everything.
Right. And life gets busy, right? So, I mean, people have families, kids, jobs, after school, sports, everything in between. And so a lot of times, and people don't want to have a phone call. They just don't So, you know, we try to ask every client, like, what's your preferred method of communication? And oftentimes it is text. And, you know, we send out a link in the welcome email, like they can schedule a call with me at any time. My cell phone's in there, but most people, as long as they're kept up to date and, you know, they're happy. They just want to hear from their law firm and from their attorney. And a lot of people just prefer texting. It's easier.
It is easier. So, couple more questions and we'll wrap up and I'll let you get back to your practice. So first, you know, I want to talk about, you've been in practice 6 years. I mean, you launch your, I mean, not, you've been practicing 7 years, but your practice has actually been, you've run your practice for 6 years. What do you feel have been your one or two toughest days?
One or two toughest days. That's a hard one.
Like a moment where you were just like,
Why am I doing this?
man, this is why am I doing this? Yeah.
I don't know if I've had any of those. I try to keep even keeled and pretty grounded. I think that the toughest days come from frustration with insurance companies or opposing counsel, to be honest. Cases that I know that are 100% worth the policy, and I have a couple right now. It's just I'm irritated. It's wasting my time. Like they need to pay, or just difficult situations with clients. I think that those are the hard moments that you have, and you're like, okay, remember the oath you took, remember your why. But I mean, it's all part of it. Everything balances out, and just got to stay grounded.
Yeah, you got to stay grounded, and I think that's a testament to why you've done well. Is when those hard days come along, you just get through it, and then a couple years from now, you don't even remember that it was that bad, because
I try not
seems
to take
horrible
it
in the moment.
Personal. Yeah, don't take it personal.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems horrible in the moment. Something bad happens, a key employee leaves, or a big case, subs you out, or these things happen. It's part of the practice. It happens to everybody. Right. And the message I want to put out there is that it happens to everybody. And I want people that are listening to this to know that those things happen to you. You're not any different than everybody else. It happens to everybody, and it's okay. You just move on to the next thing. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong sometimes. Sometimes you did, sometimes you didn't. You have to check on yourself and be honest and see if you did or not, and see how you can improve for next time. But these things are going to happen in a practice. Good things are going to happen. Bad things are going to happen. And you just got to keep going and stay even keeled, like you said. No, on the flip side of that, what were some of your best moments in the last 6 years where you feel like, okay, that moment when you and Trent got on your knees and decided this is what we're going to do, you're like, honey, this was worth it. Look at what just happened.
I mean, I've settled cases all over the world, so that's always some sort of gratification. And Trent thinks I'm crazy, but I've settled a case on a yacht in Cancun. I've settled cases in Italy. It's me. I can't let it go. I really pride myself in what I do. And so if I can take that phone call and settle a case and make a client happy, then I'm going to do it. I think some of the biggest victories are, cases that are really hard fought cases where people think I'm crazy for taking it, but I get a settlement, or cases where, you get that policy pretty efficiently, and you can have that phone call with your client and you're like, hey, I recovered this for you, and I think that the calls or the messages with the clients of that gratification, like, hey, I got policy limits, that will never get old. It'll never get old when I have a fax or an email come across from Allstate and they say they're paying the policy. I still am like, yes. I think it's just a gratification of winning and beating them. For me, I'm just competitive. Yeah. So I especially when they don't even call you, when they don't want to talk to you about the offer, when they just send that fax or the email and they're like, we're paying the policy. For me, those are just those are just home runs where it's like, yeah, I got this.
I mean, that is as good as winning gets in our industry, because you've gotten every single penny available. That's what's available, and you got it all. There's nothing else to get. I got everything, Yeah.
And that's the big thing is I'm a very firm believer in policy limits or nothing kind of thing. Obviously, if it's a case that warrants it, I mean, even my own team thinks I'm crazy sometimes, because I'll go back and forth 8 times on a case, and they're like, Ashley, we told you this is the top offer. And I mean, I've had adjusters tell me you don't like to take no for an answer, do you? And I'm like, no. But at the end of the day, there's cases that I've gotten an extra $500, $1,000, $1,500, $5,000 for a client. And at the end of the day, that money's going to go in their pocket. And so it takes a couple extra emails, a couple phone calls, sometimes being stubborn. But, I just take great pride in doing that with even the smaller value cases. And I think it just goes a long way. And what sets me apart, rather than being one of those mill firms that has thousands of cases and you have to get something out.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think a lot of attorneys lose perspective that, hey, for your client, getting the extra $5,000 is a lot of money.
Right.
And that's going to make a difference in their life. And so fighting a little bit harder to go get that extra money for them is a big deal to your clients. Maybe not to you, maybe you're some rich lawyer, it doesn't make a difference,
I
but
mean, yeah, even
like for your
$1,500,
client, it matters so much.
even $1,500. It's like, I've had clients that were like, I'm like, this is the top, but let me make one more phone call. And even when I get $500, I think they feel satisfied that I went to bat and fought for them the extra mile.
Yeah.
Like, even if it was a top offer, I just make another phone call, and, I have my little strategies that I use, and, definitely have my strategies and tactics that I try to use to get more money. But I mean, I have, great response letters that I'll really stick to them, and, you set them up. And I think that everybody needs to do that in the industry to hold them accountable. But if we push hard and get that extra cash for our client, they're just so grateful at the end of the day, even if it's a small case and you tell them you got a little bit more.
Yeah, they're happy. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we're coming up on time, and I want to respect your time. So I'm going to get to the end. I got my last question for you that I ask every guest, and I want to hear what you have to say on this, which is, if you could go back in time and you could talk to, younger Ashley Rawlins, just started and just passed the bar, what would you tell her?
I don't really have any regrets. I just think keep going. Like, if you get knocked down, get up again. For law students that are just getting out of school, it's a grind. It's a long process. Law school, passing the bar and starting your own practice is not a sprint. It's a marathon. So from somebody that's ran marathons, it's definitely difficult and pretty equivalent when it comes to the endurance of starting your own practice and running a marathon. So, if you have a good work ethic, if you have something that you believe in, stay the course, stay true to your values and who you are. Don't compare yourself to other people, do what's right, and everything will work out. Put a smile on your face and keep working. If you fall down, get back up.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Thank you, Ashley. And thank you all for listening or watching. We'll see you on the next episode of Bootstrapped Solo. And remember that just because people like Ashley Rawlins make it look easy and effortless, it doesn't mean that it is. And our only ask for you is, if you enjoyed the pod, please share where you share stuff: LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. We can only grow if you let others know about it. And so we'd appreciate your help in doing that. Thank you, and see you next time on Bootstrapped Solo. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Thanks, Pratik.